Good morning. Raise your hand if you ever moved houses or changed schools in your lifetime. Okay, most of us. Keep your hand high if you've done it more than 5 times. Okay, more than 10? All right, more than 15. Ooh, okay, I see my friends out there. If your hand is still high, I am right there with you. Growing up, I moved over 20 times before I got to college. And believe it or not, I absolutely embraced the nomadic lifestyle and the term Army brat that came with it. Moving from duty station to duty station with my mom often felt like an adventure. And it truly formed the roots of who I am today. I had the opportunity to learn from so many different diverse perspectives and truly learn how to be adaptable from a young age. But like any beautiful journey, it did not come without its own challenges. Bouncing from city to city meant that I was always the new kid. I never truly learned how to be a part of a community or form those long-term relationships and get the lifelong lessons that come with that. And so, over time, I started to notice patterns in my behavior, such as unobtainably high expectations and a restless need for constant change. I also had the tendency to keep my relationships to a surface level. But deep down, I knew that I was craving community, and I was actively trying to find that. Until one day, I found The Power of Vulnerability by Brené Brown.
What's the struggle? And I said, well, I have a vulnerability issue, and I know that vulnerability is kind of the core of shame and fear and our struggle for worthiness, but it appears that it's also the birthplace of joy, of creativity, of belonging, of love, and I think I have a problem.
Wow. That really changed the way that I viewed relationships and ultimately how I viewed wellness. I started to step outside of my comfort zone when it came to relationships, hoping that this was the key I was missing to unlocking new possibilities with people. And as I started to see results, it fueled my fire to make changes in other areas of my wellness. I started to stretch and reach and grow as much as I possibly could. So one day, I took this idea of stretch a little bit too far, and I signed up for a yoga class. Oof. At first, yoga was awkward and uncomfortable, but I noticed that yoga was much more than just a physical practice. It is one that challenged me, both physically, but also mentally and emotionally. And the more that I leaned into that discomfort, unexpected rewards started to come from that. And so, naturally, I wanted to bring the power of yoga and all of those aha moments that came with that to the kids that I work with. After years of practicing on and off the mat, I created a curriculum that blended social-emotional learning competencies and yoga into a multi-week series for middle school students. And then one day, a student entered my class and changed everything that I thought I knew about social-emotional learning. We'll call him Oakland. From day one, Oakland stood out to me. He entered the room and dropped his stuff on the floor. He did not talk. He did not participate. And even if I had directly addressed him, I was lucky to have any form of acknowledgement in return. But you know what? At first, I was tapped into all my education, my training. I was like, don't even worry about it. Maybe it's just a bad day. Don't take it personally. Once he sees all the great activities you've planned, he's going to come around. Despite my optimism, he did not. My frustration was growing quicker and quicker by the day, and I started to question not only my effectiveness as an educator, but his drive as a student. Until one day, I challenged the class with a community building project centered around compassion. They each made dozens of anonymous sticky notes with kind words and affirmations. And when they were ready, we walked around their school and placed them on their friends' lockers, on teachers' desks, and on bathroom mirrors to brighten their school community. As kids were darting through the hallways, Oakland came up to me and handed me the only sticky note that he made that day. And it said, "I love this class. I'm sorry I don't do anything. Sorry." With a personalized emoji doodled in the corner. Ooh, y'all. That threw me right back into the body of my younger self, sitting in a new desk, in a new school, in a new state, all over again. I suddenly empathized with that need to feel seen and that want to be acknowledged. I remembered what it's like to want to build a relationship with somebody and not know how to do it. This made me realize that Oakland is not just there to be there. He was there growing and adapting in the best ways that he knew how. That was the switch for me. I started to assess Oakland's actions less from my first instincts, leaning more into my newfound yoga mindset, ultimately making the switch from reacting to reflecting. For example, when I first met Oakland, I would initially try to force conversation with them to prove that I'm a safe person. You can open up to me. But I'm sure my hurried reaction to his lack of response proved otherwise, right? But when I was able to shift into my meditation practice, it really helped me in these moments of elongated silences because I had practiced so many times before on the mat. It led me to see that urgency, although loud in my head, the urgency to connect with Oakland only existed within me. And if I could be mindful and take a breath and sit in the quiet of my own mind, I can certainly hold space for Oakland. When I would lead yoga flows for the class, Oakland would promptly settle into Shavasana, which the kids have fondly nicknamed the napping pose. This would get under my skin. It felt as though he was blatantly defying me. But then I remembered that a big part of yoga is yin and yang, active versus passive, or in this case, movement versus stillness. The body needs balance, and Oakland was finding his. When I would try to facilitate group activities, Oakland would silently sit in the corner and doodle. And at first, this would make my inner military child mindset bubble with frustration because it felt like he was actively working against the collective goal that we set. However, when I reflected on guiding principles within yoga, sathira, and sukham, I remembered that we must find balance between strength and flexibility. And ultimately, I decided that I was going to be more flexible in my methods of that activity to grow a bigger impact, a stronger impact from it. So then, on the last day of class, the young yogis got to showcase what they had learned to their families. And moments before everyone arrived, he ran up to me with the biggest smile on his face and said, "Can I please, please, please do a move I've been practicing at home?" Whew. So in an effort to honor his newfound enthusiasm and really give him ownership of his showcase, I agreed. And y'all, when I tell you, it was like a movie. Oakland firmly planted his hands into the ground, shifted his weight, and lifted his feet for a full, perfect form kakasana. I was mind blown. He just flawlessly performed an advanced yoga move that to this day I still cannot do yet. I'm working on it. In this moment, my heart was so full. It reminded me that social emotional learning is not something that we can just teach. It is something that we must live into if we want to truly create space for connection, not only within ourselves, but within our communities. We have all had times where fear, stress, or frustration causes us to act in ways that do not align with who we want to be. Dysregulation pulls us away from our values, whereas self-regulation brings us right back into balance. Just like in yoga, steadiness is built upon a firm foundation, a strong foundation. And from that foundation, we rise. We rise by lifting others. And so I challenge you to lead mindfully and to find balance and flexibility as life calls for it, so that together we can empower the next generation to be the change that they want to see in this world. These skills are not innate. They are taught with intention, and they are practiced with purpose. But I won't lie to you, you will not always feel strong in that stretch. So in those moments, I hope that you remember that joy lives within your stretch zone. So take a deep breath, reach a little farther, because I promise if you do, you will make your impact grow further than you have ever imagined. Thank you for practicing with me. Namaste.